What's going on, everybody? Resi43 here. I'm back with our next video. I took a little bit of time off. It was really nice. Just hung out with some family, did some work. Um, Still been thinking a lot about Series 10, but I've also been playing a good amount of Pokemon Unite. So I may end up doing some content for Pokemon Unite in the future. We'll see. It's a ton of fun. Those of you that don't know, it's Pokemon's MOBA game that they released that is actually a ton of fun. I'm having a really good time with it. I do have a mobile background though, so it was pretty easy for me to pick up. But those of you that don't may have to take a little bit extra time with it. But we're still going to be bringing you Series 10 content today. So we took a little bit of a break from our Series 10 team building videos to go over a couple of other videos. So today we're going to be coming back with our next Series 10 team building video. So in the past here, I've done 3 videos. I've done what I consider to be the tier 1 or the big 3, if you will, of the restricted Pokemon, and that is Kyogre, Xerneas, and Zacian. Those 3 are you're probably going to run into the most, or at least a lot of, very different play styles for the teams, but all in all, Pokemon you have to be prepared for. Additionally, I want to add to that list Calyrex Shadow. I'm not going to lie, I thought that Calyrex Shadow was going to be tier 1.5 or even lower potentially, depending, just because I didn't think that. I thought other dark types like Incineroar and things like that would be able to handle it a lot more easily than they have been able to at this point. So Calyrex is technically a tier 1 Pokemon. I think it's good enough. It's a very, very strong Pokemon, and there's some stuff people are doing right now with it that is really, really powerful. But I have it in my tier 1.5 group, so we'll get to it probably after this one. But today we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite Hoenn legend, Groudon. So let's go ahead and jump into um, Pokemon Showdown here. I'm just making sure I get everything open. All right. So Groudon. Groudon was a menace in VGC 2019 and 2016 because it was a fire ground type that was so powerful. Precipice Blades was very spammable because it was a ground move, and you often saw mixed sets. You saw some people running full special, some people running both. It gets access to Eruption. It's a very powerful Pokemon, and it was most commonly paired with a Pokemon like Xerneas because Xerneas is very weak to Steel types, and Groudon was very good into Steel types. Now Groudon did lose his fire typing because he no longer is able to Mega Evolve or Primal Revert rather. So just a ground type here. Ground typing is just mono ground typing is actually not a bad type. You only have 3 weaknesses. You're only weak to grass, water, and ice, and you have a immunity to electric, which is a really big deal. And then you've got some resistances as well. You resist poison. What else do you resist? I think it might just be poison, right? I believe. Yeah. So ground, the big reason ground is a very good offensive type, right? Only has a few resistances. I mean, it's got an immunity to flying type. Other than that, it's only resisted by bug and grass, and it hits some of the most important types in the metagame, like electric, steel, and fire. Those are some of the most important types right now. So Groudon is actually a pretty solid Pokemon overall. I do think that Groudon did take a hit from the removal of Dynamax. It didn't necessarily nerf the Pokemon itself, but Groudon's best friends, Venusaur and Charizard, did receive a slight nerf from the removal of Dynamax. Charizard may not even be playable anymore, and Venusaur just kind of has to change its role a little bit on the team. So Groudon is a physical attacker, and most people will run it physically. Its signature move is Precipice Blades. This is the exact same move as Kyogre's uh, Origin Pulse, except so it's no additional effect, but it hits both of your opponent's Pokemon. 85% accurate, 120 base power on the physical side. You're going to almost always see Groudon with this move. I think it's correct. Even though there's a lot of Wide Guard going around, it's still just such a strong move. You could make an argument for Earthquake, I guess, but Earthquake gets reduced damage by grassy terrain, which Rillaboom is everywhere, and you hit your own Pokemon as well. So Precipice Blades is just far and away better than Earthquake. But from here, the moves are kind of up to you. You can run a fire move, you can run a rock move, you can run Swords Dance, you can run Protect, and so on. But what So Groudon is the star, right? Groudon is a very strong offensive threat, pretty bulky as well. He eats his Wheaties, so he's got 100 HP, 140 defense, which is really solid, and then 90 special defense is not terrible either, and often can be shored up with some EVs. So I'm going to approach this video the same way that I approached the last ones. We're going to take a look at what some people are doing with Groudon who have been successful with it. And the first one is Rajan. Rajan, he used this team right here to make top 8 of the Battle Frontier tournament. This is a really interesting team that I had been thinking about some very similar things that Groudon, or for my Groudon team, that Rajan has here. So as you can see, mostly offensive Groudon with only 12 speed. We'll touch more on that later, but good bulk. Rillaboom and Incineroar are the two supports, both physical, but they cover each other really, really well. This is a very bulky Rillaboom that's going to be switching in and taking a lot of hits. And then Incineroar is actually 0 speed. I didn't realize that. That's really interesting. So the Incineroar being able to get an extra point here for Snarl, as well as being able to parting shot. Interestingly enough, I think that I actually believe that U-turn might be better on Incineroar right now. The reason why is that in a vacuum, yes, parting shot is a stronger move because it drops stats. But the thing is that games are so right now they're so dependent on switching. There's so many teams that are constantly switching Pokemon, and unless you have to click Fake Out, usually the first person to click Fake Out ends up being in a bit of a awkward position, right? It might go into a Protect, it might go into a Switch, and then they've lost the momentum of switching. So in a situation where you're constantly switching your Pokemon using U-turn and parting shot, if your opponent is also doing the same thing, then they're not often you're not often reaping the benefits of a stat drop with parting shot as you would be from chip damage with U-turn. Um, so that's just a side note. I think U-turn might actually be better right now than parting shot. Parting shot's obviously very, very good. It's a phenomenal move. It in a Dynamax metagame, it was one of the biggest draws to Incineroar, among everything else that Incineroar has. But just something to think about, some food for thought. I think U-turn might actually be better. But then you've got some special attackers here. You've got Drifblim with Tailwind and Grassy Seed. So for those of you that don't know, on Burden, doubles your speed if you've lost or aren't carrying or used your held item. So the idea here is that you can lead Rillaboom Drifblim, or you can lead Drifblim and bring Rillaboom in later, and you can set up a really fast Tailwind, right? You can't get faked out because you're a Ghost type, which is super cool. And you get access to some really good support moves with Will-O-Wisp and Hypnosis. Shadow Ball is definitely the best offensive move you could use, and I do actually think that Rajan talked in the video he did with Adi that this 100 special attack is to guarantee one to Oko opposing Calyrex. I wouldn't imagine that you would survive the hit in return if for some reason they're Sash or something, but you do have Rillaboom's Grassy Glides and whatnot, so. I definitely really like the Drifblim. Regieleki is Focus Sash, and I believe that's what a lot of Regielekis have been running these days, just because you have to. It's for the Tornogre matchup mostly. Tornogre is like they can get up Tailwind and then they can go for strong Water Spouts, and Regieleki can't survive the Water Spout, so you do have to in fact have a Sash. But it's often good, right? Because you can just Electro, and then the subsequent turn you can Volt Switch or T-Bolt or something and just put on a ton of offensive pressure. So, and then Nihilego with Power Herb, Meteor Beam. This is the spread that you can use to take. You end up taking Grassy Glide from Adamant, Miracle Seed, Rillaboom, but you also still maintain your special attack Beast Boost, which is really nice. And this is a good Xerneas Pokemon, also a good Pokemon into Fire types. Fire types are a little bit of a challenge for this team because you are setting up the Sun for it, and you only have Incineroar to deal with it. So things like opposing Groudon, opposing Volcarona, opposing Incineroar, even like Ho-Oh, those things could be technically be problematic. And I really like Nihilego as well. It's just a really good Pokemon. A lot of people have been using it as a good Xerneas Pokemon, as a good Ho-Oh Pokemon, good against Incineroar, good against Rillaboom, good against Volcarona. So really solid team here from Rajan, but this had a lot of the similarities to what I was thinking about using for my Groudon. So Protect, Precipice, Blades. I really like the Heat Crash tech. Heat Crash is something that is really interesting on this Pokemon because the only physical fire move that Groudon gets is Fire Punch. Um, and Heat Crash is a move that people didn't use in Dynamax because you couldn't use weight-based moves against non-Dynamaxed Pokemon. So if you did have a weight-based move and you Dynamaxed your Groudon, you could still deal a bunch of damage with the move. But if you were non-Dynamaxed Groudon trying to hit a Dynamaxed Pokemon with a fire move, it would fail because Dynamax didn't let you do weight-based moves. So Fire Punch is always 75 base power, and I believe that the weakest Heat Crash can be is base 60 power if you are going against, let's see, Groudon, um, Heat Crash. There we go. And let's take a look at, so it's 120 base power. Well, that's a Abomasnow. Let's take a look at Celesteela. Celesteela is going to be the biggest chunky. That's base 40 power, right? So that one's not so good. With Celesteela, I mean, Fire Punch would be better, obviously, but Heat Crash is still doing a lot of damage, as you can see. Let's take a look at Zacian. Zacian, you're going to be looking at a 60 base power move, but you're going to be clicking Precipice Blades against Zacian anyway. But then if you start looking at other things, like let's say Xerneas. Let's say Xerneas here. Heat Crash turns into 100 base power. Maybe Xerneas wasn't. Let's take a look at Rillaboom. Rillaboom is a good example. Sure. So Heat Crash is a 120 base power move against Rillaboom versus Fire Punch, which may not even KO. Yeah, Fire Punch is a roll, and this is like a pretty bulky Rillaboom. So if they're even more bulky, or this is not a very bulky Rillaboom, excuse me. So if they're even more bulky, then Fire Punch won't KO. And obviously this isn't max attack, but same thing. So yeah, Heat Crash is a really interesting move that Rajan teched on, and I think Heat Crash is great. The last move you can kind of do what you want with. Swords Dance is really interesting. Substitute was what Rajan had. Those two are probably the best. If you really want another coverage move like a rock move, you could run that as well. But we'll get to the moves afterwards here. So I had a couple of teams that I was looking at. I don't think anyone else did use Groudon. So if you're looking for like the most successful Groudon team, it's probably Rajan's. But I do believe that there's some different things you can do with Groudon. One idea was to go for like sort of a Trick Room Tailwind hybrid. So if we take a look at Incineroar, Incineroar would be a really nice Pokemon to take advantage of you want a good fire type at some point. We'll talk about the next one in a minute here. I'm getting ahead of myself, but Incineroar actually does good damage with Flare Blitz in the sun. It already does good damage with Flare Blitz, but now it does even more. And I really like that. I think that Incineroar is a great partner for Groudon. It does get Fake Out, and we could run U-Turn or Parting Shot. It's just good for stalling a turn, faking out something threatening, whatever. A really interesting partner for Groudon, in my opinion, is Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini, now that Dynamax has been removed, I don't think that, and a lot of people will agree with me, that Leftovers Calm Mind Fini is not really that good anymore. One of the main reasons why you ran Leftovers Calm Mind was that you could often stall Dynamaxes with it. And you could often or you could turn into an offensive Dynamax threat yourself. So you could use the combination of Protect, Leftovers, Recovery, and Calm Mind allowed you to like stall out Dynamaxes, right? But now that set was really susceptible to physical attackers like Rillaboom, but also to critical hits, and it like was slow, right? You don't really like have a lot of time to be playing slow like this in restricted metagames. So I believe that the two best sets for Fini would be like a Choice Specs modest offensive set or a support set. And I'm really interested in the support set here. So in 2019, there was a really, really solid Tapu Fini set that people were using that was Moonblast, Nature's Madness, Light Screen, and Heal Pulse. And this last move doesn't have to be Heal Pulse. This last move could be Ice Sea Wind or something like that. But this set is really, really good, and this is a really nice partner for Groudon, right? They do both share a weakness to Grass, which is kind of unfortunate, but Tapu Fini can deal with a lot of the water types really nicely. It can deal big damage with Nature's Madness, which is a move that didn't see a lot of play in Dynamax because of the way that it interacted with the Dynamaxed Pokemon. You did a half of their non-maxed HP, so you ended up only doing a quarter, which just wasn't very, very good. Um, but this deals damage equal to half the target's current HP. So if you catch something on the switch in, or if you catch something that has just switched in and it's been a turn, you can just deal half damage to them in one hit, which is really, really, really good. Um, Light Screen complements Groudon really nicely. Groudon's weaker defense stat is special, and so just having Light Screen is really cool. And then Heal Pulse is a nice move that can help you out in the Trick Room mode of the team, keeping Groudon alive. Um, the the nice part about this as well is that the Pokemon I was going to use instead of Drifblim was actually Mandibuzz. And Mandibuzz is really cool because it matches up well into Calyrex Shadow as well. It does get faked out, which is kind of unfortunate, but I suspect that with how bulky we're going to be on Tapu Fini, if we lead Tapu Fini Mandibuzz into Calyrex, we can just set Tailwind. We would be following the same logic here as well. We'd be going Misty Seed, Overcoat, and then Tailwind, and then probably like Foul Play, Snarl, and then maybe, um, maybe something like Taunt could be interesting, or Roost, or something like that. But with these stats, and access to Overcoat, you got so much just bulk sitting right here. This Pokemon will match up pretty well into Mandibuzz, or not Mandibuzz, into Mienshao, which is a really common partner for Calyrex, and it will match up well into Calyrex as well. Calyrex won't want to sit in front of this thing. Now there is some consideration to running like Dark Pulse or something. The special attack set's really bad, but the reason why I say that is that Mienshao often do carry Wide Guard. So Snarl would be, you might just have to go for the foul play if you're expecting them to go for the Wide Guard. Um, but Fini setting up Light Screen and going for Nature's Madness is also, Fini matches up really nicely into the Mienshao as well, and it shouldn't die to the Calyrex. So um, yeah, I really like that. The speed, you might end up wanting a little bit of speed just because you may need to outspeed Calyrex um, after the Tailwind, but more on that later. The next Pokemon is going to be a Trick Room setter, but it also is going to have to be a Trick Room sweeper as well. Somebody that can set its Trick Room and still take advantage of it. And I think one of the best ones is probably Stakataka. Stakataka matches up really nicely into Xerneas, which Groudon doesn't really want to face. Um, so you've got a nice matchup there. You've got your own Trick Room setter here. It works nicely with Tapu Fini taking away burns as well, heal pulsing up. I really like that interaction a lot. And then you could just go Gyro Ball. You also have another answer to rock types here too. Trick Room, Gyro Ball. Sorry, my phone is blowing up here. I apologize. Mute for an hour. Okay, so Trick Room, Gyro Ball, Rock Slide, or Stone Edge if you want to play around the wide guards and then protect. Or one of the other things you could go with is Body Press if you want to go for Body Press. Body Press allows you to punch your way through Incineroar a bit better too. I mean, you have Stone Edge too, but if they've intimidated you a couple times, having access to that would be kind of nice. Also, in order to get Stakataka to have an attack boost, you do have to take some out. I think you have to go down to 15, and then you have to run yeah, there it is. You have to run a defense reducing nature, which is not amazing, being truthful, but it does allow for snowballing and offsetting intimidate drops. I think just going for this is going to be better, and then you could tech Body Press onto it. And then the last Pokemon I actually think is Venusaur. And Venusaur is still a pretty solid Pokemon. It matches up well into both Kyogre and Xerneas, which are two Pokemon that we don't have a ton for right now. But these Pokemon together here give you some really nice, like, it gives you a decent Trick Room mode as well as a good Tailwind mode. You've got Venusaur who can still go for Chlorophyll, speed boosted, Sleep powders if you want. Now we do have, if you do go sleep powder here, I will caution you, we do have a little bit of anti-synergy with the misty terrain. Now that isn't necessarily a bad thing because there may be some matchups that you bring Venusaur to that you don't bring Tapu Fini to, and so you need to be able to go for sleep powders and stuff. So I really think that that sleep powder is fine. You are the person who controls the moves of your like what you're using in battle and which Pokemon are active. So if you bring Venusaur and Tapu Fini to the same battle, maybe don't lead them together, or don't go for Sleep Powders in Misty Terrain. Obviously, just keep that in mind if you're going to run it. But I still think Sleep Powder is a really strong tool that Venusaur has access to. Um, Additionally, I think Leaf Storm and Sludge Bomb are just mandatory. Sludge Bomb hits Xerneas really, really hard, and Leaf Storm does really, really well into Kyogre. And then the last move is probably going to be Protect, just to get around Fake Out. This team is a little susceptible to multiple Fake Outs, but I don't think it's that huge of a deal. I think that you can get a lot of room to maneuver, and um, good type synergies here as well. You know, Incin, Tapu Fini, Venusaur is a really strong Fire, Water, Grass core. They all cover each other really, really nicely. And then we do have 2 ground weeks, but we do have a ground immunity. So yeah, this is one example of what I would run. I think Focus Sash Venu is good. I think just timid max like this. I think timid is important to outspeed a Lecky if you can't set Tailwind, um, and go for sludge bombs, or maybe you want to run Earth Power on Oversleep Powder or something. You could do that. Stack Attacka, in terms of an item, one of these two is going to have the Life Orb, and I'm really not sure which one I want to have the Life Orb. Um, hmm. I think Stack Attacka might be a better Life Orb holder, and that frees up Groudon to be able to carry something else. Uh, but here we've got Tailwind, Foul Play, Snarl. The last move is probably going to be we'll put Taunt on here for now, or maybe we'll put Roost. I think Roost is fine. And I think we're going to go max HP. We're going to go Bold Nature, and then we're going to go. We're going to want to be pretty bulky on the physical side, right? Maybe not. Is there? Let's see. Okay. Um, Misty Terrain, Misty Seed. This is like the most offensive you could ever be. So it looks like we do take basically everything with no investment. But if we have to go Calm, then we could go. No one runs Thunder, right? Let's just change it to Thunder. I guess they do on the Kyogre teams, but okay. So we already take the Thunderbolt. Let's see if we can EV for Thunder without having to use all of our EVs here. I think we can pretty easily. We're almost there now. Okay. So that takes Thunder, and then that gives us a round number as well. Let's see how much Xerneas does here, just in case we have to bring Xerneas in this matchup. Modest, Fairy Aura, +2, we don't take. Do we take the Dazzle? We do take the Dazzle. Okay, I think I'm fine with that. So let's just start with, this will be a good spot to start with. 172, there it is, and then 84 defense. This is good. I think this is a good spread to start with. We want to be mostly specially bulky anyway. And then I don't think we're gonna bother with speed. I think we'll just deal with underspeeding after Tailwind. How much would you need? You need to be 112. Okay, so we can't even get it with the rest of that. That's speed ties Calyrex. That speed ties Timid Calyrex after Tailwind. So I guess you could do that if you wanted. You could dump this into speed over defense if you wanted to, but yeah. And then Tapu Fini I think is gonna be a pinch berry. I think Wiki Berry is good. And then in terms of spread, I think we definitely want to be mostly invested in special or in HP. Let's see, how much do we need for Tapu Fini? Rillaboom. I don't know why all the notifications are coming through. Facebook drives me nuts sometimes. All right. So Adamant. Let's check Miracle Seed. Grassy Glide. Okay. Okay, that takes the Grassy Glide there. From Adamant Miracle Seed. Okay. What was it? That's also non-intimidated as well, right? Like if we intimidate it, it's going to be even better. But 116. Do we want to be more than that? And do we want? We probably don't want to run any speed, but we probably could do something like this. Does that take anything that we want to take? 140. We don't need to run. We don't need to run much special attack. We're a support, and Moonblast is going to hit what we need it to hit in 2-shot most likely. Let's check Regieleki again. Okay. So Modest Life Orb we don't take. Do we take Magnet? And then what about Timid? Okay, Timid, Magnet is a roll. What about Focus Sash? Okay, we take Focus Sash everything except for Thunder. So, okay. I think I'm fine with that. This will be a good spread to start with, and if we're dying to things we shouldn't be dying to, then we'll correct from there. But just to double check as well, we could also run Citrus if we want. Citrus might end up being better. But 176 divided by 4 is going to be 44, and then we get 58 recovery when we do that. Maybe we do want to run Citrus. Citrus might be better. Let's go Citrus. And then for Ensign, Flare Blitz, Fake Out. We technically have AV still available. Maybe we go AV Rilla with Snarl U-turn? Or Darkest Lariat U-turn? That could work. I don't think we necessarily want to run Roar. Roar is good against Xerneas, but I think we're pretty good against Xerneas for the most part anyway. So we'll go max HP. We'll go... we could probably go Adamant, actually, and make Incineroar a bit more offensive. I was doing something like this with the Ensign that I was running before. We want to run a little bit of speed to speed creep stuff. I think this might have been one of my old Ensign spreads that it was actually pretty offensive and it worked really nicely. The 36 EVs is just to outspeed things, like outspeed opposing Ensign and get the fake out off first. Excuse me, but if you didn't want to go for Assault Vest, you could actually go for the idea here of zero speed Sassy. Zero speed Sassy is really interesting because you could run Snarl or something too, but we do have Snarl on Mandibuzz, so I think this Ensign might be something that I roll with. And then for the Groudon, we could go White Herb. White Herb would be kind of nice to deal with the first Intimidate. Otherwise, we could go for a damage boosting item of choice. Maybe we want to go for something like that. Let's try White Herb, and then I think Substitutes sounds pretty good. Substitutes seems pretty sweet to me. And then max HP. Let's see what did Rajan do? Almost max HP. I don't know what 236 does exactly, but we do want to be 12 speed because this does outspeed Calyrex after Tailwind. So you get to set the Tailwind, and then you get to ignore Alecki, and you outspeed Calyrex and Zacian inside Tailwind, and you're still pretty reasonable inside Trick Room, right? And then I do think we could just start with Rajan's like max spread or max attack spread. I was thinking you could opt for more bulk and you could drop your attack a bit, but I think this is fine, especially without the life orb. I think we want to be insulated against the white herb stuff. So, um, but yeah, this is one example. One other example I wanted to touch on really quick was something that I think could work in it as well. It would be more of a trick room one, but I think Volcarona is actually a really strong fire type in conjunction with Groudon. There was a team that did this. Let me see if I can find it quick. Nimbasa results 2019. There was a 2019 team that had this. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find it. Was it the Latin America qualifiers? There's Groudon. It was Groudon. Maybe it wasn't this. I don't remember. But the idea here is that like Volcarona can actually be a really nice Rage Powder support for Groudon, but um, it can also deal a ton of damage with its fire moves um, inside of the sunny day. Oh, maybe it was this one. No, I don't remember. Sorry, I did a bunch of clicking through these teams last time just to see what people were doing. Um, Back in 2019, because I didn't play during 2019. Um, yeah, I don't remember. Okay. Well, anyway, I think Volcarona could be really interesting, and it could work nicely in a very similar set where you also pair it with some sort of a Trick Room setter. You could go for like Stack Attacka again as well. Um, and then in terms of like other Pokemon, I think like Serena could be pretty cool um, to get around Fake Out and also work nicely inside Trick Room. It's pretty physical so far, so we do need some special Pokemon. Tapu Fini could work here as well as a good water type that also the support set as well. It does have a little bit of anti-synergy with Volcarona, but it doesn't seem that big of a deal to me if I'm being truthful. And then the last Pokemon, maybe this doesn't work. I don't know. I was really intrigued by this sort of like lineup here, just because Groudon does get access to Swords Dance, and Stack Attacka does get access to um, Trick Room, so you can double take advantage of Rage Powder, and then you can EV super bulky with Volcarona, and you can still like deal a ton of damage with something like not Flame Charge, Flamethrower. You can still deal like a ton of damage with Flamethrower, which is really cool in my opinion. So something like this could be really interesting. I will try to find that team and maybe show it to you guys in the next video. I didn't come prepared for this one, I guess, but I do think that this could be a really solid like start as well, where Groudon, like we said, has three weaknesses. Now all three of these Pokemon are weak to water, so you do need to have something for that. Um, you could have Gastrodon as part of the Trick Room as well. Actually, that sounds pretty cool to me. Gastrodon seems pretty solid. Also, you do want a Grass type, so probably something offensive. Serena, or you could run Venusaur. Venusaur would still be fine here as well. And then lastly, maybe another Trick Room setter. Is there any like big? We do have two ground types this way, so we are pretty weak to. Well, hmm. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing this together on the fly here, but the idea was that you could go for Swords Dances with next to Volcarona, or you could go for Trick Room next to Volcarona, but then you could also just run another Trick Room setter as well. I don't know. Maybe it ends up being bad, but this was just an idea that I was thinking about previously. Stack Attack of Volcarona Groudon, or maybe it's not Stack. Maybe it's just Volcarona Groudon. Um, that would be pretty cool in my opinion. Maybe it's an offensive Volcarona too. Maybe you don't run Rage Powder. Maybe you run Quiver Dance, and then you just support the Quiver Dance Volcarona. And then just have it be a decent partner for Groudon too. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways you could take this, but I think Volcarona being really solid in the metagame just in general, but also taking advantage of Drought seems really cool to me. Um, but yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this video. I do plan on playing some games with this team. I think this team's really cool, um, and it gives me like these are another example of like Stagataka is really good in the metagame, so is Incineroar, but like Mandibuzz and Tapu Fini aren't really that popular in the metagame right now. I'm not counting my restricted because, yeah, you could make an argument for almost any restricted, but these two are actually pretty decent and they offer a really nice niche in the metagame as a whole. So I definitely think that this is an example of one of those teams I was talking about where you can take meta Pokemon or metagame Pokemon and mix them with non-metagame Pokemon and devise like a pretty solid team as well. So but yeah, that's going to do it for me here now. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. I'm still having a lot of fun with Series 10, but maybe in the future we'll do some Pokemon Unite stuff. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you all in the next video.